Good everyone on any meeting. Yeah, I'm turning it off just for a minute.
Welcome to tonight's show. You're listening to the Temple of the Set, the Teachings of Netter Internet Radio Blog Show. My name is Muata Ashby. I am your host for this evening. I say hello to all of you who are joining us. To means adoration, but we do use that word to say thank you, and we do that for you who have joined us this evening. This is the Recap with Teaching Shetty, this another show. What will be shared on this show are the ancient philosophical and religious teachings of ancient Kemetic, which lead to transformation of the heart or soul. Priests and priestesses of the Temple of the Set, as well as Dr. Muata Ashby, my mom, and Dr. Ashby, Sebait, will present the teachings which, when practiced, transform the heart. This transformation is one from mortal consciousness to eternal consciousness, from animal consciousness to spiritual consciousness, from consciousness of the physical body and mundane reality, to consciousness of the body of light called the Aku, based upon the ancient African tradition known as Neterian. This show has been developed as a means to assist you in Neterian practices, which open the way to this mental transformation. Tonight we resume the weekly Saturday evening Recap teaching show with a new series of lectures presented by Sebait, Dr. Muata Ashby. In this series, Sebait will be discussing the newly released book, Egyptian Book of the Dead, Hieroglyph Translations, Understanding the Mystics to Enlightenment Through Direct Readings of the Sacred Signs and Symbols of Ancient Egyptian Language, with the Trilinear Deciphering method. Included within the book and within this series are full-color plates of the ancient Egyptian papyri. We believe you will enjoy what will be shared over the next several months from this text. Right now, I'd like for you to check your email. Sebait has sent a new link for tonight, an additional link for any meeting. The use of that link will take you to any meeting, which is where Sebait will be doing presentation this evening, and where the plate pictures of the glyphs will be able to be shown to all of us, so that we'll be able to not only hear the teachings this evening, but so that we'll be able to see them as well. The link that was in the announcement that went out is not working, and Sebait has sent out a new link for all of us now. So if you could do that as we speak, I'll continue on with the intro, and we will, get this going. One thing is for sure, though, that I want everyone to be aware of is that this is the first time that we have attempted to do a simulcast of the simulcast. So we're going to be working through whatever issues may come up as we work through that unmuted. So, if all of you who are listening on could go on board and do that, that would be great. Would you survive? Can you hear me?
Uja, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
All right.
One second. For those of you who do not know about us, the Temple of the Set is dedicated to the dissemination of the universal teachings of spiritual evolution, which relate to the union of humanity and the union of all things within the universe. While we recognize the unifying principles in all spiritual and religious systems throughout the world, our primary goal is to provide the wisdom of ancient spiritual teachings from the Neterian culture of ancient Africa, which is known as Netter. Netter means hidden divinity. And with that, I too am going to see if my link will work. How's it going on your end, Sebait?
So far, so good. We'll see. But I'll say at the outset that we're trying this new for the first time. I had this idea actually several months ago, even last year, to try it. But and we had the link was set up more than a week ago, and then today it failed, so I had to set up a new one. So like you know how sometimes when people have technical issues and they have seminars going on or some program that they're trying to do, they say, "Oh, I apologize for your trouble. I apologize for the technical difficulty. I'm not apologizing. I'm not apologizing for the insanity of the world and the screw ups of the world. They're not my screw ups, so I'm not apologizing for them. We're trying to do, trying to do the best we can, and if things want to cooperate, great. And if they don't, well, we'll keep on trying. But I'm not apologizing for the insanity of the world. The world can keep its insanity. So I'm going to keep cool regardless."
I hear that. That's so interesting. I was thinking the exact same thing that, as I was thinking about this, I wasn't going to either. I didn't feel like it was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
The world is troubled. The world is degraded. The world is
Exactly.
interesting to put it mildly. So, as you provide and attempt to provide teaching the knowledge that will help those who have an ear to hear, who are beyond degradation and transcendent, those who have chosen to assist you in the other. That's all we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
We'll work within the construct that we're dealing with.
I'll say that I'll say that we did try to do this kind of thing back in the early 2000s when the technology was really starting up and the infrastructure, for the internet and things like that it's kind of established, but it wasn't good. And by this time, this first 50 minutes, we would have had, about 50 glitches and people getting knocked off and bumped on, and you getting knocked off and bumped on. So it's a much better system, but it still needs some work. Because we have, our end has to be right, the internet has to be right, the computer has to work correctly, everything has to be kind of in sync. So I guess we're getting there.
So you're up now on any meeting spot?
Correct, and there are 14 total on any meeting right now, and they've logged in and they can hear, they have sound and everything. So it looks like we're ready to go here. And I have my desktop set up, the video's working, so everything seems to be okay on this end right now.
Okay, great.
I just noticed everyone on any meeting, if you can, go ahead and mute your phones just so that until we get to the Q&A section, then we can, you can speak if you like, and we can have Q&A and conversation. How are you doing on your end?
Well, I had to run the update. I had to update my flash player, so that's what I'm doing now.
All right.
But I'm doing fine. We can go ahead and get started. But
Okay, very good. Let's start with a brief chant as we get going. Om Mamu Rapta. Om Mamu. Om Mamu Rapta. Om Mamu Rapta. Om Mamu Rapta. Om Mata Pata Pata. Greetings, everyone. As you heard, little chatter just at the beginning here, we're trying for the first time a Samuel cast. We're broadcasting on Blog Talk Radio online, which will only have audio. And we're also broadcasting on a system called AnyMeeting, which is like GoToMeeting or WebEx or a service of that nature. And I'm able to have a video where you can see me and live, moving around. And also there's a chat system as well. And you can see the number of attendees. Currently we have 15, 16 attendees online. And you'll be able to see a desktop with the items that I'll be showing. And we will be able to record the meeting so that it can be available and played later. This lecture series is related to the latest release, book release that we've done, which came out last month. Egyptian Book of the Dead, Hieroglyph translations, as you can see here. And what you're looking at on the screen now is the EgyptianYogaBooks.com website, where it's been revised so that you can get the books now in a faster way. Also, you can get Kindle, you can get Nook ebooks also, and there's a new T-shirts, poster, craft store section as well. In addition to that, you can look on the left side of the website. You can see that we have the meditation mats, the Glorious Light meditation mats, video downloads, MP3 music downloads as well. But today we are going to be beginning a short series of lectures based on the new book. It's slated to go anywhere from 15 to 20 sessions or lectures or weeks. So it'll take us through the summer and probably into early fall. And this will be a highlights, a summary of the new book, and highlights of it's going to be kind of an instruction about what the book is all about, and a summary of the contents. The book is in two parts. As part one, which is a kind of introduction to the teaching and philosophy of the Proto-Heru, the Book of the Dead. And then part two is a translation of about 20 chapters or scriptures from the Proto-Heru. And this is being called a volume one because it's intended that there will be a subsequent volumes, perhaps a volume 2, 3. These are based on scriptures that I presented at the Neterian Conferences over the last 15 years. And there are going to be more, like there's going to be more coming up at this year's conference. And then in subsequent years, there'll be more and more accumulated. So say in another 10 years, there'll be another volume, a volume 2 to this one. So what I'd like to do is to have some specific areas that I want to cover of the book. and I would like Asar Anpu to assist by reading some sections, and then I will go ahead and expand on them. And this should take about half to about 3/4 of the time that we have allotted, and then we're going to focus on one scripture for today, and on every session we're going to focus on a particular scripture that's contained in the book, and we'll get through, like I say, there's about 17 or 20 scriptures that are discussed in the book and translated. And so now we're going to go through with kind of introduction to the Primitive and the philosophy, and then we're going to look at a little bit of introduction to the myth that it's based on, and then insight into what's so special about this book, which relates to the translation method that I have used for several years now, and why it's so beneficial. So I'm going to change my screen over to the book. What we're going to be using in this lecture series is a kind of electronic version of the physical book. So if those of you who are following with the physical book, you should be able to follow page by page. Everything should be on the same page as what is going to be presented here, unless we have some glitch, which of course that can always happen. So the title of the book is Egyptian Book of the Dead, Hieroglyph Translations Using the Trilinear Method. The subtitle is Understanding the Mystic Path of Enlightenment Through Direct Readings of the Sacred Signs and Symbols of Ancient Egyptian Language with Trilinear Deciphering Translation Method. And I'm using the term here, deciphering, specifically, because in a way, from our perspective, it is a decipherment. And you're going to see why I put it that way. That we're translating, but we're really deciphering, because coming from the perspective that we're in a totally different world than what the Proto-Heru comes from. Okay, I'm going to scroll down through. What you're seeing right now is the actual cover of the book. And the cover is kind of designed to be technical, because in a way this is like a technical manual. So most of my covers, they have like nice images of ancient Egyptian scenes or scenes from the temple, walls or reliefs, things of that nature. This is designed as a kind of technical manual. And so that's supposed to be reflected in the image of the cover. And what you're looking at here on the left side, or the right side, is the actual scripture itself. I believe this one is the hymn, one of the hymns to Amun. And we did a separate lecture on that, I think a month or so ago also, and I think that's available as well. That particular chapter, that was a little more in depth than what is going to be covered in this lecture series, so you may be interested in going to that one after. So what you're seeing on the right is the actual scripture. What you're seeing on the left is the trilinear translation / decipherment. And what the arrows are doing is that the green arrow is pointing to the scripture that is colored green, and that is this first line that is being dealt with. The second line is a kind of pinkish sort of color, and that's for the verse number 2 here that's being dealt with, and the white line is for verse number 3, which is this section here. And this is pretty much the way that the whole book is structured. You may not see the lines like that, but the scripture is dealt with in that way. A kind of a section by section, verse by verse. Now, Ampu, do you have access to the Any Meeting? Are you on there, logged in and everything? Sorry, Ampu, can you hear me? Sorry, Emperor, are you on? Okay, I think you're on any meeting. I think you're on mute.
I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me now, Shabbat? Can you hear me, Shabbat? Yeah. Uja? Uja, can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you on any meeting. Okay, you can speak. Okay, there you are. I can see you, but I cannot hear you for some reason.
And I've got my microphone off. I will type in a message.
And you seem to be unmuted, so. Those technical limitations.
Yeah,
Let's see if I can do it from my end here.
the others say they can hear me.
Say something now?
Testing, 1, 2, 3, Uja. Uja. Uja.
I think the issue might be on the issue.
How's this? Can you hear me now, Shabbat? That? Yeah, the others say that they can hear me and see me also.
Say something again, let me see.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, Uja. Om, Amun Rapata. Om, Amun Rapata.
Okay, you guys can see Anpu, but for some reason, I mean, you can hear him, but for some reason I cannot. For some reason my speakers are off. Okay, say something again, please.
Om, Amun Rapata. Om, Amun Rapata.
It sounds like perhaps. Yeah. Okay, say something again.
Om, Amun Rapata. Om, Amun Rapata. Om, Amun Rapata.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Now there.
Get a little echo,
Can you hear that feedback, Saban?
Let me see if. Speak again, please. Okay, I think you're off now.
Now I'm back.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
But I don't see
me
you.
off.
Excuse me?
It knocked me off, and now it rebooted me automatically. So now I'm going to turn on my webcam. Can you hear me well, Sebait?
It's a little low, but I can hear you, yes.
How about now? I turned up my volume.
Yeah, now it's good. All right, can everyone hear Saranpu? Okay, very good. I think we're okay. I think we're good.
Sounds good.
Can you go ahead and read the text on the screen?
Okay. Good. I'd like to also say, do a Sebait for bringing back the Saturday evening Recap Wisdom Show, especially through this type of teaching. I think that I can speak on behalf of the rest of the Neterian community by saying "doer" to you, and say the job for bringing forth this work and also bringing it forth so that we in this realm, in this means actually, this venue, can use the information to help us in spiritual discipline. So I say yes, go, attack.
Yeah, do it.
This new volume contains original translations of chapters of the Ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, the book of coming forth by day, displaying the Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphs with word-for-word translation, plus the innovative Trilinear System, a technique developed by Dr. Muata Ashby, and now projected the Kemetic Neterian Sebait, or Ancient Egyptian Mysteries philosophy. This is an ideal study guide for approaching the Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic writing in a step-by-step manner through 3 layers of descriptive translation. This volume includes translations presented at the annual Neterian Conferences over the last 15 years, and also includes new texts never before published. This book provides new and deeper and direct insights into the Egyptian mysteries for beginning, advancing, and advanced aspirants alike, as it may be used as a philosophy study reference, a textbook, or as a reader for daily spiritual study or ritual worship. Attack.
Okay, I think my line was muted there for a second. I was saying that this book contains works that have been presented in the last 20 years, but also contains items that have never been presented before. So that's another important aspect to realize with one of the important contributions of this new title. So it's not just a reworking of things that have been presented in the past, but it also is presenting some new items. So let's go ahead and move forward. This is looking from right to left. This term, it means Shetaud Neter, or Egyptian Mysteries. And the book of Coming Forth by Day represents the second level of Shetaud Neter. Shetaud Neter means the way of wisdom of the hidden divinity, which is behind all creation. Religion has 3 levels of practice. The first is myth, which includes the traditions, stories, and everything related to it. The next stage is the ritualization of the myth. The final stage is the metaphysical philosophy behind the teachings given in the myth. And the book, now the title has changed, but the old title used to be Assyrian Resurrection. The book is now African Religion Volume 4, Assyrian Theology. And that deals with the myth related to Asar, the god Asar, which is Osiris, and Aset, Isis, and Heru, Horus. And the book of Coming Forth by Day, which is one of the misconceived titles of this text represents stage 2. So once you learn the myth, then you start reading the texts contained in the Purna-Heru, or the Book of the Dead, and then you start practicing rituals related to them, and that makes your myth effective. You start reading, doing the readings, doing the chants from it, doing the rituals that are related in the Purna-Heru, this book that we're talking about now, and they relate to the sun resurrection mostly, but they also relate to other divinities as well that have some aspects related to the sun resurrection, and also have other mythic teachings as well. One of them is Amun, like I just talked about before. So now let's go to page 16. The sun resurrection myth is going to be kind of dealt with throughout, but essentially, for those of you who are looking at this for the first time, we have other videos and, of course, the book that deal with that. It's such a wonderful and fantastic and great epic. Essentially, it deals with the first human king of ancient Egypt, which his name was Asar, and how he came to the world by the request of Ra, who asked him and his wife Aset to come to the world to be. And so he did that. He was a successful king. Everyone tried to keep themselves while everyone is. Can you hear me, or are you hearing me?
I can now.
Yeah, let's remove
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Anyone hear sound? Okay, I've kind of muted everyone. I'm going to unmute you now and see if we can go. You can unmute yourself, Andrew, when you're. I think we got the issue for now. The myth of the Asar resurrection deals with Asar, who came to the world at the request of Ra, the god Ra, to come and be a teacher to human beings. His brother got jealous. He said, I'm compressing a major epic into just a few seconds. His brother Set got jealous of him and murdered him. And then Set had to put his pieces back together, had to bring him back to life. And then they an heir in the form of Heru. And that started a battle that led to the victory of Heru over Set and the resurrection of Asar, the redemption of Asar. And throughout the Purna-Heru text, there are references to that. and how doing the rituals and understanding the knowledge that is contained in the Purim Haru, that victory can be effected, can be made to come true. And that's called Ma'kedu, the victory of Ma'at. And so this wisdom deals with the essential question of who am I? And most of the teachings of the great religions of the world, great philosophies, deal with this issue. The problem is that many of them, not all, but many traditions or teachings of the world or philosophies, they're like the movie The Matrix. In the movie The Matrix, you are told that you are living in a world of illusion created by a computer. And the problem is that when you take the red pill, which is supposed to be, it's a symbolic of your desire to be released from the illusion, then you are flushed down like a toilet in a way into this alternative world, which is supposed to be the real world. And then you realize that is a crummy world, and some people even want to come back to the delusion because it's nicer. And in a way, human existence is like that. So to that extent, the movie is an apt kind of analogy. Like when you are sleeping at night and you have a dream, you're in your dream world, and then you wake up, and then you think that you're waking up into a real existence, but actually you're waking up into another dream. The physical reality that you're experiencing now is the same as the dream that you have at night, except that this is a longer dream and it has more continuity for a longer period of time. Because the long period of time, maybe you live 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. When you experience a dream, it's over maybe in a half hour or an hour. Or maybe you keep on having the recurring dreams. But they only last for a few minutes, maybe an hour or whatnot. Your waking reality of your physical life can go on for years, but it still has to come to an end. And when you study the nature of the so-called physical reality, and I've talked about this many times in other lectures, the issue of modern physics is proving this also. But if you practice enough meditation, you start to realize that you have a separate existence from this reality, which is illusory. If you start examining the nature of physical creation, you start realizing that it is insubstantial. What you call matter, what you call physical reality, actually is as insubstantial as your dreams. And many people find that hard to believe, and yet it is true. You talk to a quantum physicist, and they'll tell you the same thing. Einstein said the same thing. And you think that there's something solid here, like this picture that I have. You think that's solid, but you also think that this space that my hand is moving in, that there's nothing in my hand, and actually there's more substance in this space, apparently empty, than in the physical atoms of this picture behind me. That's how illusory this creation is. The atoms that are in creation are going in and out of existence all the time. And the nature of your deeper self is beyond physicality. It is subtler than even the empty space that we're moving through all the time. And that is what the who am I question is really all about, is how to discover that. And one of the primary teachings that the Purim Haru book talks about is living in accordance with Ma'at, which is we're going to talk about a little bit at the end, which is going to be a major aspect of the theme of this year's Neterian Conference. And so we're going to see Ma'at throughout our study of this lecture series as well. So let's move on to, we sort of went into this already at page 17, the purpose of life. If all this is illusory, and the ancient Egyptians recognized this eons ago, and they established a whole society based on this concept, on this ideal, that the world is illusory and there's a higher reality. And so therefore, if that is the case, then we should align our life to that higher reality. And that gives us the true purpose of life. Whatever that reality is, it transcends where we are now, and we can't know it with our time and space concepts in our mind. If we are able to transcend our time and space concepts in mind, then we can fathom the nature of that transcendental reality. And when that happens, that is called enlightenment. Let's move on to page 23. I'm just hitting a couple of highlights from the first section of the book, so you can have a kind of a background to where we're going. And some of these things are going to be coming back as well. Okay, page 17, we did that. Personal life, page 23. The three stages of religion, I kind of introduced that a little bit earlier. For brevity's sake, I'll go ahead and just highlight a couple of sections here. An important theme which will be developed throughout this volume is the complete practice of religion. That is, in its three aspects or stages: mythology, ritual, and metaphysics. Metaphysics also relates to the pursuit of mysticism or the mystical experience. At the first level, a human being learns the stories and traditions of religion. So if you're growing up in your culture, you learn the myths of your culture, which is, if you're in a Christian culture, you learn the Christian myth. If you're in a Muslim culture, you learn the Islamic myth. The myth about Allah and about Muhammad and the stories about him. If you're in Hinduism, you learn about Krishna or you learn about Rama. You're in a Buddhist culture, you learn about Buddha, so on and so forth. Those are the mythic aspects. They gave certain teaching. Then you practice rituals related to those myths and teachings. So if there's a festival related to the victory of Heru over Set, and you practice a ritual related to that on that day, that is the practice of the level 2 of religion. So you learn the myth, and then you practice a ritual related to the myth. If you enter into a deep reflection and a deep experience of the wisdom and meaning of the myth that has been intensified and has been made effective through your practice of the myth, then that is called a mystical movement. And what we're really talking about is the idea of you being what I would term you are living the experience of the protagonist of the myth. Not that you are vicariously living through them. That is something else. Like when you have a child, and let's say that your child is playing basketball, and your child makes a basket, and then you feel, oh, we made the basket. I made the basket through my son, and I feel young, and I feel successful because your son was successful. That's living vicariously through someone else. When you're having a mystic movement, and we're talking about the god Heru, we're not talking about his victory, we're talking about my victory. We're talking about me as Heru, the embodiment and the actor. And that is the level of identification that is practiced in a very high stage of mystical practice. You're taking your ritual to the next level. If you do not do that, then your myth, your religious practice stays at the level of myth and ritual. And that is always going to be a limitation. It's going to be a level of duality, because if you're moving to mysticism, you're going beyond myth and ritual itself. But the trouble is that most world religions do not have, and so at a lower level. This remaining duality in religions causes them to have the capacity and propensity to come into conflict with each other. And for instance, the early Christians who developed orthodox ideas and literal interpretations of early concepts of Christianity came to the notion that their religion was real, that their myth was real, and everyone else's was false. And of course, in this dualistic conception, it became, in their minds, acceptable to put aside the main teachings of Christianity, which is turning the other cheek and loving your neighbor as yourself, all that kind of thing. Put that aside so that you can murder the people who do not agree with you, do not follow what you're doing, and then you can say, well, you have followed your ritual perfectly, and you have stood up for it, and you have protected it from the heathens and from the devilish people who are really acting on behalf of the devil to destroy you and your religion and so on and so forth. And this is, of course, a delusion of major proportions that leads to violence and the degradation of religion. And this is exactly the opposite of mystery religions. And the ancient Egyptian is a mystery religion. The Vedanta of Hinduism is also a mystery type religion. The higher aspect of Taoism, higher aspect of Buddhism, all these are also, there are some aspects in African religion and Native American religion. And some even in pre-Orthodox European, like the Celtic and other traditions. But since Zoroastrianism and other Orthodox aspects of Judaism came to be, then developing into Orthodox Christianity, it has been a kind of disaster for world spirituality. What has happened in this negative development, development of ignorance in religion that also rejects science. If you go to a fundamentalist Christian or someone of that ilk, they'll say, "Oh, the world was created in 6000 BC." And if you go to present them with evidence of dinosaurs from millions of years ago, or evidence of science showing that this particular universe was created 14 billion years ago, they will be angry with you, and they will attack you because they're going to say, because you are acting on behalf of the devil, because you're trying to take them away from their literal understanding and interpretation of their Bible. And so you are part of the devil, and so you don't deserve to exist, just like the devil doesn't deserve to exist. And so this literal interpretation, this ignorant movement that rejects knowledge and science and wisdom, this is the source of the downfall of world spirituality. Yeah, let's move to page 26. What is the perjurer? Before we go to page 26, this is page 25. This and this is a, and I believe I present a trilinear translation of this this line of scripture. The first word is Ra, Ra'u, which means words or chapters, and then Nu, which means of, Pert, which means going forth, and M, which means as or by means of or through, and Heru, which means like. And this, before I do the translation, I wanted to show you something else here. That this is not contained in the book. This is something that you will not see in the book. This is a section from a famous book called the Wallace book version of the Book of the Dead from 1895. And he's talking about, in his introduction, he's talking about the name that appears in the scripture, about the scripture, what it calls itself. The common name of the Book of the Dead in the Theban period, and I'm going to go into the different periods in just a minute, is, and probably also before this date, and the Theban period is the period of Ramses II, the period of the New Kingdom, essentially, from about 1900 BC to about 1200 BC, that era, the New Kingdom. Pert M. Heru. The vocalization, the transliteration into Western letters, I believe is correct. However, he goes on to say which words have been variously translated, and they're variously translated by different Western Egyptologists. They translate it as manifesting in the light, coming forth from the day, coming forth by day. This is where this translation here, coming forth by day, is the one that's popular in the West. La manifestation al jour, which means manifesting in the day. La manifestation a la luminaire, which means manifesting under illumination. And this is German, which I don't read too much. The other one was French and Spanish. These basically are the same, being illuminated in the light and so on and so forth. And then he admits in the final sentence here, this name, however, had probably a meaning for the Egyptians which has not yet been rendered in a modern language. So basically he's admitting that this is a wrong interpretation. And why is this a wrong interpretation? The term Rau Nu Pertem Heru, I'm going to show later, but essentially this is the key that makes it a wrong interpretation. What I'm pointing at here is this glyph. This is the key to understanding why there is an error. The M. The owl has a phonetic value. It also has a special meaning. It means transformation, essentially. It means something that transforms something or that manifests as something else, not under. So it is manifesting. These are the chapters for coming into and manifesting as the light, not under the light, not that the light is shining and you're in the field of the light, so the light is going to be shining on you. You become the light, and Heru, the light, that means that which is high, that which is uh, solar, that which is illumination, that which is spirit, essentially. So this is the book for coming into or becoming light. In other words, it is a book of enlightenment. That is the true interpretation of the title itself. And so if we're starting with the title being wrong, then what is that going to do for the rest of our interpretation of the meaning of the text? If your idea is that the book is for you to go into a place where you're going to be shined on by light, then your conception and your idea is going to be tainted by that as you go through translating the meaning of the book. This is a book about mystery, the mystery of life, and about mysticism. And if you're transforming into light itself, it means that you are leaving behind your mortal reality, your mortal physical being. You are going into becoming one essentially with God, because Heru is God. And I think that has to be straight. That has to be the first thing. And when we look at the Trilinear translation for this line of scripture, you'll see more on that. Okay, let's go to page 38. Just a couple of points of, and this is we have it sideways here. It's that's how it appears in the book. So you can have a longer, a wider view of it, but it's a little hard to see in this format. What you're seeing here is, let me see if I can make it smaller. See if we can. All right. What we're looking at here are images of the evolution of the Purdom Heru text. What mostly we think of as the Purdom Heru text is this down here on the bottom left, which is a papyrus scripture. But before the papyrus scripture was compiled, the same teaching was contained on coffins. It was written on coffins, on the insides and outsides of coffins. And then in the latter period, it was made into a scroll, and then the scroll was put into the coffin, or put in with the mummy. And before the coffin text, you had the same genre or teaching of scripture that was placed on pyramid walls. And so they were called pyramid texts. These are not the Great Pyramids. These were pyramids that were built for specific kings of the Old Kingdom. Okay, now on page 38, the origins of the Purdom Heru. Sir Ampu, if you could read the first couple of paragraphs, please.
What page is? Can you hear me, Sebait?
I can hear you.
All right. Can you increase the font size here, or tell me what page it's on so I can go to it myself?
I can increase it a little. Let me see.
Then what page is it? Because I can look it up. I can go to mine.
It should be on page 38. Right, page 38 in the book. Yeah, I'll start reading while you find it. As mentioned earlier, the texts which comprise the Rao Nu Bertem Peru originate in the far distant past in the form of the pyramid texts. They were codified as utterances which, when understood and practiced, could lead the practitioner to reach expanded levels of consciousness. This was symbolically referred to as gaining power over the gods and goddesses and becoming a glorified soul. The antiquity of the scriptures is attested to by some of the rubrics used on some chapters. For example, the rubrics from some of the versions of the chapter 31 and 36 state that they were originally found, not created, by Hertataf at Kemenu, the city of the god Jehuti, while on a tour of inspection of the temples of Egypt, while Hertataf was on a tour of inspection. Some variants assign the findings to Senti, who was a king in the first dynasty. For this and other reasons, it can be said that the scriptures originated in the pre-dynastic times, but were codified in the dynastic times. And this is alluding to the idea, we're not going to get into this in depth here now, but the idea that the people who brought forth the earliest scriptures do not say that they created them. They say that they found them. And those of you who went on the trip with us to Kemet last year, and in some other lectures I've talked about this before, that there was a pre-dynastic era, and these ancient Egyptian scriptures talk about this. Modern Egyptologists do not want to accept this. Essentially, the scriptures, the writings of Manetho, the scriptures in the Turin Papyrus, the King's Lists, and things of that nature. They talk about a pre-dynastic era that goes back all the way back to the creator Ra. So the kings go back. They have a lineage going to Asar, and then Asar's lineage goes back to his parents, which are the gods and goddesses, leading back to Ra, and into the as far back as the 30,000s BC, and the existence of the Sphinx, and as well as other evidences that some of you know that I discovered on our last trip that I cannot really talk about in an open forum, supports this, and actually it proves this. And so what it means is that the people of the dynastic era did not create their philosophy, they carried it on. Some of the scriptures that were found, they come from the earlier era. So this is so ancient that's what we're talking about. We're talking about 20,000 BC, 30,000 BC, 40,000 BC. That's what we're talking about, the existence of a pre-dynastic ancient Egyptian culture. And there were some issues that occurred, and then there was a resurgence in the dynastic period, and that's mostly the era that people talk about or know about, and modern Egyptologists do not want to accept or acknowledge the existence of a pre-dynastic ancient Egyptian civilization. Okay, so let's move on to one more thing, page 39.
Can you hear me, Sebait?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
You can read this section and focusing on the section in green, if you want.
Section in green. Okay. It is notable that the text and illustrations within the various papyri do not always coincide, and that different scrolls contain the same utterances in different orders. This points to the fact that there is no correct order which the utterances must be presented, nor is there a prescribed number of utterances which must be included in a volume in order for it to be considered a complete book. Also, the hieroglyphic scripture could be written in either a vertical or a horizontal form, from right to left or left to right. Some chapters have variants, making their length variable. Chapter.
Right, so the idea here, and you can go and read the book for more details. Essentially, what is being given here to understand is that this is not a scripture to be understood like the Orthodox want to understand a scripture like the Bible. That it was as it is today. It is a scripture that is exact and it's the same and it's inviolable, and all of the things that have to be in there. And if they're not in there, then it's not the Bible. All this kind of way of understanding is incorrect, and that is a new understanding. The Persian text is a text that of the surviving samples, the Persian scrolls, the Book of the Dead Scrolls, they can have as many as 192 chapters. Or as few as 50, or as few as 20, or whatever. So there's no set number, and there's no set order of the chapters. And what is really going on is that it has to do with the particular RU, or the perspectives, the needs, the spiritual outlook of the person. And I always say that the Persian that I brought forth, the version I put forth, which has about 50 chapters, I believe. Those are the chapters that I would have myself buried with if I was going to be buried, or it can be cremated when my body's cremated also. So those are the ones that I selected for myself, essentially. And you can select specific chapters for yourself. There are a few chapters like chapter 1 and chapter 2, which do say that they are the and they come in that order. And you're going to see as we do chapter 1, which probably will be next time, not this time. You'll see what I mean by that. I think the scripture is saving, so I'll keep on talking while it's saving. I'm not sure why it's saving, but probably because I made that change on the picture. The other point that is important to understand is that you can have the scripture from right to left, as far as from a reading perspective. But the idea is that the book is tailored to your needs as a human and spirit being. There's no hard and fast, rigid rules. Because if you look at the Bible is, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but the Bible, as a canonized scripture, when it was canonized about 350 ACE or so, there were several other scriptures that were around. There were from different Christian groups, and then these people in Rome decided to create a council, the Council of Nicaea. They have different councils, and they decided we're going to select the scriptures that are going to go in, and we're going to call it our Bible, and all the other ones are out forever. And so after several generations, after hammering into people's heads that this is the Bible and this is the scripture and anything else is heathen, then they can even go out and destroy other Christian sects that do not agree with them. So it's a very degraded kind of spiritual practice that is not enjoined by the Peru culture. Okay. So now we're moving closer. Okay, this is a picture of one of the coffin texts, one of the coffins with coffin text on it. And you notice that the book is also in color, so you can see some of these things better as well. the physical book, that is. This scripture here is just to give an idea of how, of the kind of continuity of the teaching. The first section of scripture comes from the Pyramid Text era, which is the earliest era, or the earlier era. And the second comes from the late period. It's from a Pyramid Text of the late period, which is in the first millennium BC. The first one, this is a trilinear translation matrix, where you have the transliteration, which is on the first line, a word-for-word translation on the second line, and a contextual interpretation in the third line. The contextual includes philosophy and myth and metaphysics into the understanding of the scripture. So we have Ba Arpet Shat Erta. So soul is to heaven and body is to earth. So the soul belongs to heaven and the body belongs to the earth. And in the late period, we have Pet Kerba Ke Ta Keri Tutu Ke. So heaven is under the jurisdiction of the soul, of your soul, and earth is under the jurisdiction of your image or your body. Heaven has control over the soul and is where the soul goes. Earth has control over the physicality of the personality and is where the image of your soul, the physical body, stays. So your physical body stays on earth and your soul goes to heaven. So essentially, it's the same teaching. That's the point. Showing the continuity of the teaching of the Proto-Baru in the earlier era versus the later era. Versions of the Proto-Baru. I talked a little bit about this just to give a little bit of detail. I'm not going to go read the whole section, but just something for you to know that's kind of important from a technical standpoint, as well as for you to understand that when you're reading the scriptures, it's also important. There is some continuity, but there also can be some changes that are legitimate from one period to the next, or from one region to the next. But also in the late period, you can have some corruptions as well. So there are essentially there are really four, but it's the three main versions of the Proto-Baru. So it's not really one Proto-Baru, there are three versions. They're all kind of interrelated and they're all compatible, but they have differences. And one is the Anunian, what is called a recension or a version. And this should not be understood as like the King James version, the new American version or things of that nature. That's not like that. It just means that it was created by the priesthood of these particular cities at different times in ancient Egyptian history. And like we saw, the correlation of them and the compatibility of them. The King James Version Bible is not compatible with other versions of the Bible. It's created specifically for the British king, but we're not going into that. So it's what we're discussing is not like that. It's not that at all. But it's just so you understand that there are some differences in the versions, and so that teaching may be found in a different way, with a different emphasis also. So the Anunian recension has to do with the priesthood of Anu in the Old Kingdom, and that's the city of God. And then we have the Wazirian or the Theban recension, the Theban version of the scripture, or the Theban period of the writings of the scripture. And like I said before, you can have up to 192 chapters, but you don't find any scripture, any print of Haru that has 192 chapters. Without it, you can have that many, because those were the number that were created that survived to our history. And then there's another version, or a Said recension, and Said is more of the Greco-Roman period, and that's what I'm saying. That you can have some other new things that came in, and some corruptions, but also some areas that are compatible. So you have to know what you're reading, in other words, so as to keep things straight and not to get confused in your mind and in your practice, in your study of the teaching. And one of the ways to keep things straight is to have an in-depth knowledge of the scriptures, the different versions of the scriptures, or to concentrate on particular scriptures of particular periods. The main one that is concentrated on these days is the period of the and one of the famous ones is the Horus apparently. Okay, I went over that, so we'll go ahead and let's do it right now. Okay, let's move to the introduction of the Trilinear System. But before that, I just want to say a couple of words about ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. We're skipping through some things here, but we'll probably be coming back to some of this throughout the lecture series, so don't despair. I wanted to say a few words about ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs before going forward. And, we will move right into this section of the trilinear understanding of a scripture. And then we can take a break and actually do our first scripture. What you see here is an image from the tomb of Nefertari. And the scripture is saying, Asar Nefertari, and this is a Pernabaru genre scripture, which is why I'm presenting it here. Asar Nefertari, the great queen. Let me read the Kemetic first. Meduje in Asad, Suhemet Urt, Nefertari Makeru. So it says Asar Nefertari, the great queen, beloved goddess Mut, and Makeru, which means spiritually victorious, is in the presence of Asar, the great god. So, Asar Nefertari is in the presence of Asar. Okay, all right, it's page 61. Okay. Let me make sure on my. Yes, page 61. The hieroglyphic text, this is what you're seeing here is a walking stick. And this is a serpent. This is a reed. This is a squiggly line is water. This is an eye. This is a throne chair. This is a god. A plant. This symbol here is a symbol of a woman's uterus. And this is the letter T. This bird symbolizes Ur or great. This is a phonetic complement, which is an R and a T. The vulture is for the goddess Mut. Nefer means beautiful or good. Neferi, Tari, Try. uh, En and Mary, which means beloved, and Makeru, or this is an or and a pedestal of Maat. When you see these, without being able to, even before being able to read them, they give you a certain impression. When you are reading alphabetic text, it gives you an impression. If you're reading something that is a different language that you cannot understand, it gives you a certain impression. When you're reading a alphabetic text, you have to first bring forth the vocalization, and then it resonates with a conceptualization that you have in your memory. This is the process of language, of alphabetic language. When you have a visual language, so what this means is that you have to go through, first of all, in your alphabetic language, it means you have to go through your left brain to bring forth a kind of reference before you can go to the right brain with a concept related to the word. When you're going through a visual language like hieroglyphic text, and hieroglyph means carved in stone, and this is carved on the stone walls of the tomb of Nefertari. When you're reading the glyphs and you're looking at them visually, first it is apprehending your visual centers and your conceptualization center in your right brain. And then after that, it brings forth a kind of vocalization. So you're already at concept, and then you're going to go to, you're already at right brain, and then you're going to go to left brain to be able to speak it, or to be able to relate your thought about it, your speech about it, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to understand the importance of a hieroglyphic type language. And a hieroglyphic type language that relates to, the more that it relates to imagery, because if I say the word a red balloon, the first thing that comes to mind once you, of course, pretty fast, but you still have to think, oh, red, and then you have to conceptualize what red is in your mind, and then the word balloon. Then you conceptualize, you go through vocalization, and then you remember, oh, this vocalization means this visualization. And that's kind of a process. So you have the vocalization of the term, and then you have an idea, and then there's an actual red balloon out there in the physical world. And so, which is the real one? The answer is that none of them are real, but the most real is the one that is in the concept, because the concept is the one that's closest to perfection and as an idea, because nothing really that exists in a relative sense in time and space is real or can have abiding reality, so it's illusory. And so the highest thing to reality is the concept, which is removed from time and space, essentially, and you're removing yourself into the abstract ideal of what that object is, which is in its essential form, which is a transcendental, formless, abstract reality. I don't want to confuse you with this right now, but I'm trying to give you an idea of how important and how deep the idea of a visual language is. So you're relating yourself to the visual aspect of the object. You're bringing yourself closer to the essence of what that object is, or where it originates from, before it came into time and space as an object. And that brings you closer to spirit, which is the source of all creation. So I'll leave it there because I don't want to to get too esoteric or metaphysical on it right now. And of course, the other conception that I want to bring here before we go forward, we take a break now, I guess, is that she is being called Asar. So men and women can both be Asars, or in fact they are Asars, and it's being relating her to the myth of Asar in her part of her scripture, and it's basically saying that she is an Asar and that she is also true of speech, which is the kind of overriding theme of the Persian text. It's how you become Maked or true of speech, spiritually victorious. That's what we're discussing as we go along in this lecture series. So we're going to do a brief introduction of, because we're running out of time, I see, a brief introduction of the Trilinear System, and then I think we'll just kind of pick it up there our next meeting, so that we won't be going too far afield in this first one, and I don't want to go over the time. Essentially, what makes this book special is that we're doing a trilinear work through on the Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphic scripture. This is an example of how traditionally in Western Egyptology it has been done, which basically is an interlinear translation of Greek scripture, biblical scripture. Then you have the transliteration into the Western scripture, or it could be French, it could be Greek, it could be Russian, whatever. And then they do a word-for-word translation. And the contention is that the word-for-word translation is inadequate to bring forth the deeper meaning of the scripture, which necessarily contains a mystic philosophical insight and instruction for spiritual practice. And so therefore the Trilinear System has been devised to go forward beyond a simple interlinear translation and incorporate another layer of translation that brings out the metaphysical, philosophical, and mythic insights that are implied by the teaching, that are brought forth in the teaching. So in this example, we have a transliteration, a word-for-word translation, and then we have the trilinear line here, which brings forth the depth of the translation. This is just an example. So the other idea is that the transliteration works vertically as well as horizontally. So each verse is, you can read it from top to bottom, and so it's like expanding the meaning from the original text, which is really hieroglyphic text. Much of it is like a formula. It's a very condensed. It's not verbose like Western writing that has a lot of floweriness to it and a lot of prepositions, a lot of connecting texts like ands or buts and this, that, all these kinds of aspects of grammar. So you can look at it vertically and you can look at it horizontally, which means is that, let's say that this is verse 1, and you can read the Trilinear System has the verse, which is the number of the verse, and then the 1.1 is the transliteration, 1.2 is the word for word, and 1.3 is the contextual expanded translation. So you can read all the 1.1s, the 2.1, the 3.1 of each text together, or the point twos of each text. You can read them together, or the point threes, and you can get a coherent narrative of the text. And the closest one to prose will be the point three, and the point two is a more of a direct translation, but it's more choppy. And so that's the idea behind the Trilinear System. So since we're kind of running out of time, I'll leave it there, and we'll go into more details of that next time. And what I'd like to do is to take a quick break, and then we can go and look at our first scripture for today, and we can start there next time if we don't have enough time to finish tonight. Okay? So a couple of minutes, 3 or 4 minutes break, and then we'll come back and finish up. Sorry, are you there?
Me, can you hear me, Sebait?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'll make the announcements now. The announcements are really going to take more than a couple minutes.
Wait, you're fading out.
Uja, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Natep?
Yeah, I can hear you. You were fading out there a bit.
Okay. If the announcements I was thinking about doing, but they're going to take longer than 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Would you like to save those and just wait until next week?
Why don't we do this? Since we're kind of running up against the time, and it's getting late and everything, why don't we leave it here, and then we'll do verse 1 at our next meeting, and then we'll just do announcements now and finish up. Any questions? And then we'll start with scripture number 1 next time. How's that?
That sounds good. Those of you who are listening in on both Any Meeting and Blog Talk, would you type in and let me know whether or not you can hear me on Blog Talk while I'm talking here on Any Meeting? Specifically, Shems Baket and Saberjah. Because when I do the talk on Blog Talk, it's a lot of background noise, it's a lot of static. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and do the announcements in both means. Well, I was going to do them on both means. As soon as I unmuted my phone for Blog Talk, I heard a lot of background noise. So we'll just go like this. The announcements for tonight, May 14, 2016. For those of you who are not aware, Shitao Neter is an ancient philosophy and mythic spiritual culture that gave rise to the ancient Egyptian civilization. The Temple of Aset was founded by Dr. Muata Ashby and his wife Dr. Karen Clark Ashby. Center job is headquartered in Miami, Florida. There are 3 announcements that we will be doing, and we would like for you all to be aware of. The first announcement concerns our annual Winter Neterian Conference. We hold those every year in December. This year, the conference will be held December 29th through January 1st, December 29th, 2016 through January 1st, 2017. And the conference theme will be the mysteries of Ma'at philosophy in the scriptures of the Pertem Heru. So the theme will be the mysteries of Ma'at philosophy in the scriptures of the Pertem Heru. Given that Sebait Ma is doing this lecture series now on the Pertem Heru, that will be a nice transition from the aspects of the Pertem Heru he'll be covering from now going forward, and that will juxtapose into the areas of the Pertem Heru where the mysteries of Ma'at philosophy are espoused. So the conference theme will be the mysteries of Ma'at philosophy, and again, the conference will be December 29th, 2016 through January 1st, 2017. The second announcement is the inauguration of the new Kemet Answers website. The new Kemet Answers website, Sebait Ma this evening will be, if he hasn't already, sending out to everyone the new website link. It's launching today. It's www.kemetanswers.net. That's www.kemetanswers.net. This will be a website dedicated to questions that members of the Neterian community and even those of the Rakit have. Those questions will be posted there, and answers that Sebait Ma and Sebait Jah answer will be posted there. So that will be launching today. That is announcement number 2. And the final announcement for this evening is that this year, October 2016, I believe it's October 7th or 8th. I believe it's October 7th through October 18th, 2016. There will be an abbreviated version consisting of a 1-week seminar to Kemet, into the city of Abydos. There will be an 8-day trip to Kemet. It will include day visits to 3 cities and 4 major temples. There will be evening lectures and meditations on the mystery teachings of the Asarian resurrection. This will again be in October 7th, I believe, to the 18th. It will be a 1-week seminar, and the cost of this trip is approximately $1,800. I believe it's $1,870. That includes airfare from New York City. Also, that includes 2 meals per day. The website that has all of that information on it, or the link for that, that will be posted later on this evening as well, if it hasn't already been posted also. So with that, and with those announcements now being presented to you all, I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Sebait Ma so that he can spend the remaining time period of tonight's show discussing those and providing a bit more information about each one of those announcements for your edification. Hatep.
Puja, everyone should be able to see on the screen the right now I'm showing EgyptianYoga.com/trip to Kemet. This is a trip that I decided to do because I was in communication with our friends there in Abydos, where we stayed last year, and we were planning a trip last March. And what happened was that there were some issues and some terrorism issues that all of you heard about in France and in Egypt and different places. For the last several months, things have been quiet sufficiently that it is safe to go. I also communicated with some professors at University of Pennsylvania who are doing work there, and one of their expressions was, "I'll say to go," and he said if I could go tomorrow, I would go. That's how he put it. And so on that basis, I wanted to do a specific trip to Abdu, and this is a themed trip, a seminar based on the Asarian mysteries specifically. We're going to include Heteru, Amun as well. So it's going to be Asar, Aset, Heru, and Amun. And so we're going to be visiting 4 main temples. the Temple of Asar, Temple of Heteru, and the Karnak and Luxor. And the teaching will be related to those. So this website has more of the details. And so I think it's a special good opportunity for those of you who did not make it with us last year. It's not going to be a tour of the entire Egypt. This is going to be a much more relaxed and very kind of immersion into the Asarian teaching, and with sufficient time to imbibe the wisdom of the temple and to explore. We'll have many visits to the temple and exploration. We'll have spiritual practice in the morning and breakfast, and then we'll visit the temple, and then we'll be free in the afternoon to relax or bask in the sun and use the pool. And then evening we'll have lectures, we'll have evening meditation and chant and so on and so forth. And so we will hopefully have some people from the States going, a few people, and some from London, and some perhaps from other parts of Europe as well. So we can have more of a discussion about that at some point. But basically, that is what this particular program is about. So you can go to the website, you can see the details of the itinerary of what the accommodations are going to be like, where we're going to be staying, what we're going to be doing, and that kind of thing. And if you have any questions, go ahead and email or call. I'm just scrolling down the page. This is a image of where we stayed last, and this is where the program is going to be. We'll be having the lectures here, but we'll be also going to visit the temple itself, which is these are our pictures of the temples that we're going to go to. All of these. We'll be visiting the Asarian, and we'll have time to I'm going to be spending time afterwards also doing some special researches. And like I did last time, I may consider stopping in Europe as well. So but those plans have not been determined yet. So if anyone is interested in going and staying over afterwards, after the week, you can consider doing that as well. There's a group coming a few days afterwards, after hours. So we can only stay a few days after. Although they may ask me to stay over to meet with them also, because they're doing a program that is kind of related to Egyptian yoga, and so that would be interesting to meet with them as well. Yeah, these are Europeans who will be coming to do that visit there afterwards, in the second part of October. So on the Kemet Answers. This is a new website that has been created especially for people who would like to get more in-depth understanding and teaching, but who are not really ready for getting into Kemet University. Because Kemet University is kind of like more intensive, and more elaborate. This is designed to be like a quick and easy access to questions about the teaching. And here you can see KemetAnswers.net. You can see, let me see if I can log in here, if it'll let me. I'm not sure if I have it set up on this computer. I apparently do. It should even before you join, it should allow you to view some of the questions that have been asked already, because we tested the site, and with Shemzola Polapeju, she assisted me several months ago to do testing of the site, but I couldn't put it up formally because I was so busy with so many other things. But now we're kind of having a breather here, so these are some of the questions that are on there currently. And when you join, you're able to see those. You're able to see past ones. You're able to ask questions and get answers. You're very quick answers. They're not elaborate answers like there would be in Kemetic University, but you get the essence of the teaching, and also it allows me to post images along with it as well. So this is gonna create like a wonderful library of questions and answers that, if you join, you can have access to many questions and answers that are going to be contained in here. And so that's what this one is designed for. It's designed to be kind of a live kind of place where you can get answers to questions that are not contained necessarily in the books. And it's designed to kind of augment the teaching. Because I know some of you are you would like to have something like this, but not necessarily as intensive as Kemetic University. We kind of do questions and answers, or we used to do question and answers through the email, and that's kind of cumbersome, and it's not so nice because then they're kind of go all over the place, and they're not all in one place to access. So this is. You join, and then you can ask a question, and then you can see questions that other people have asked and that kind of thing. So it's very nice that way. It's like a library of knowledge and wisdom that's ongoing. And I always talked about the fact that questions and answers are a different kind of component of learning. Books are a component of learning. Lecture is a component of learning. But things come out in a Q&A session that do not come out in a lecture. And they come out in a different way, and they bring forth a capacity for a different dimension or perspective on an answer. So that's why I think the site is, and the question and answer sessions in our seminars and our lectures are very important as well. Okay, and the other announcement was there's not a website for the conference yet. That is going to be coming up. I think a flyer has come out already. It's going to be related to the Pernaperu text, and I'm going to focus on the mysticism of Ma'at philosophy that's contained in the Pernaperu text, and we're going to discover the sections that deal with Ma'at. And we're also going to go back to kind of the roots of the end of year conference, which is actually a goddess festival. And so Ma'at is going to be our tutelary divinity for the program, and the Pernaperu is going to be. And I spoke to Ampu about a special project that I want to try to do while we go to Egypt, if we go. And so that will be a special presentation related to Ma'at. That's going to be a direct outcome of the trip. But I don't want to go into details right now. So those of you who are interested in the site Kemet Answers, go to there and see what you think. And those of you who are interested in the trip, go ahead and follow the instructions that are there. Fill out the registration form, send in your deposit, and all this is going to be decided by, it's a go as of now. But as you know, some things can happen. There could be some major upheaval or terrorist attack or something like that, and if that happens, like 60 or 30 days before the trip, we may reconsider or postpone and that kind of thing. So, but as of now, it's a go, and the people in Egypt are eager to have us there again and things like that. And the venue was extremely comfortable, but also conducive to the teaching, and that the person who designed it wanted it, for that reason. It's a secluded kind of section of the hotel that's for spiritual groups, and so it's actually made to order in a sense. And for the kind of program that I want to present, I think it'll be a wonderful, wonderful venue. So especially those of you who did not make it last time, you should really consider, trying to go. It's a reduced cost also. So, okay. Any questions about anything that was presented? Only a couple of minutes, I guess. We'll pick up next time where we left off. Yeah. I think you can unmute yourselves, ask a question if you want, or write it in the chat, text. Uda Sebema Dua, for this course, what would be the purpose of this time of placing a copy of the Pern Haru in one's coffin, cremation box, and why would an enlightened personality do so? An enlightened personality doesn't have to do anything. That's the first thing to understand. If it's done for ritual purposes and out of habit. For enlightened personality. For those who are not enlightened, the act of performing the ritual and bringing the teaching that was studied in with them means that it is going to be a spiritual force that is carried with them on their spiritual journey after death. If they study the text, if they read it, if they chanted it, and then moving forward with it through the duat, through the netherworld, and finding their way to the inner reaches of the duat, the Sekhet Yaru, the region with the Anrutef, where the Aku Shepsu go, the spirit beings. That's what you want to try to do. So enlightened beings don't have any need to do anything. They don't have to say anything. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to teach. They don't have to talk. They don't have to do anything because they've achieved the goal of life. What they do out of habit, and they do it because that is an expression of who they are. They don't have to do it. They just do it because that is who they are. So the sun doesn't have to shine. It just shines because that's what it does. Ampu, it's 11 o'clock. Do we have additional time? Or are we run out? Or do we wait until we hear music? Any other questions? Okay, we'll continue next time. We will kind of reiterate what I was discussing about the Trilinear System and the hieroglyphic text, and then we will move right into the first scripture that we will be discussing next time, right out of the book. This recording will be posted. Hopefully, it comes out, and it will be made available. And hopefully we'll have the system more streamlined next time as well.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Yeah, I think Blog Talk just shut down. We can continue here for a few minutes. The page that we're going to be dealing with next time is page 190. We're not going to go in sequence yet because I want to make a point, a connection between the Asarian resurrection myth and the Pern Haru text. So let's go there, just take a quick look. We're going to Shamsarit, you don't have any sound? Does everyone else have sound, or did everyone lose sound? Okay, Shams, it sounds like maybe you need to log in or something. Shamsarit, if you can try that. We're going to be dealing with chapter 7. We're going to be dealing with our chapter 7 because the numbers that I didn't say this before. The numbers that are given by Egyptologists are not necessarily the numbers given by the ancient Egyptians, and that's kind of the point I was alluding to. Is that that's a nomenclature that they have done, but you can take the chapters and put them in the order that you want for yourself as an initiate. You can do this with the assistance of a priest and so on. Usually, chapter 1 and chapter 2 are the first and second chapters. And then things, can be rearranged based on the scriptures themselves. The Trilinear that I put together puts it together as a spiritual journey. That's how the chapters are set up, and they kind of from an introductory to a practice and a mystical height. And so, what we're going to be doing here is that we're going to be discussing a particular scripture from the Trilinear, and what you're looking at now is the actual text of the Trilinear, and the scripture is related to a set, and some of you will be familiar with the text, where a set says, "I come to you as your protector. I waft air onto thee with my wings," and so on and so forth. That is the kind of prose interpretation of the scripture. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to do a study of the scripture that is closer, not closer, but it is more anchored in the text itself. And so that's one of the things the Trilinear System does, that it anchors. It gives a philosophical, mythic, a kind of prose version, but it's still very anchored, very connected to the original scripture. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to for those of you, so you don't know, I'm touching actually with my finger on the screen because it's easier that way. Some of the scriptures are short and some are long, so we don't. This series is not designed to be a long teaching, a long series, because it could go on for months and months and years. So if we read every individual verse of scripture, that's for a different format of teaching, a different class. This is a more of a general. So what we're going to do is that we're going to summarize the whole chapter, and then where there is time, we will concentrate on one verse, and then we'll do a specific, like a line by line viewing, and then. Who's calling it? That was Ampu trying to call the line. So then we will do a summary of the chapter, and then we will go through at least one verse in a full kind of study. And then if there's time, we may do 2, maybe 3, but that's going to be the format. And then each time we will focus on a different scripture. Puja. I was still talking to the people online, I guess, finishing up. You're not on?
No, I got booted off. I thought that the blog talk just, I got my internet connection went out. So the show, the blog talk show.
Okay, so are there any other questions before we conclude? I hope I give you an idea of how we're going to proceed. And what we did today was a general introduction to the Primitive Hebrew text and introduction into the concept of the hieroglyphic study, the nature of hieroglyphs. And I may present a little bit more on that next time as well. And to help the study of this book, which I think is very important, to understand how to go through it and how to make the best use of it, to gain the best and deeper wisdom out of the scripture as it is brought forth through the text. That's what this series is for, to kind of complement the book and to help the teaching contained in the book. So any questions or comments before we conclude? For those of you who do not have the book, you can get it from our website. You can get it from Amazon. And as we go along through the series, you can also send in questions. You can do questions on the. I was thinking about doing a forum, but I didn't want to be as formal and all that. So we'll just go with this format for now, and then we'll see how we do from there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and conclude. We're a few minutes late. It was supposed to be 2 hours, so I think we're okay. And I think next time we're going to try to keep it to about an hour, and maybe like an hour and a quarter, and we'll go on from there. Okay. Om Amurapta. Om Amurapta. Om Amurapta. Om Amurapta. Om Hatep, Hatep, Hatep. Hatep. Dua to everyone. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. I think we may be doing this on Friday because Saturday is kind of booked for something else, so we'll be sending out notices. Okay. Thank you for putting up with the technical issues. Again, not apologizing, but thank you anyway. It's up.